how can you be secure in the season that God has placed you in, whether you be single, married, widowed, or divorced? Let's look at it as we recap yesterday's sermon and apply it to the current circumstance that you and I are in. Well, Sipke Bontekoe, who came from C3 Imagine to preach to us about being a secure single and being effective in any season of life, talked about, amongst other things, about 3 lies that we encounter in our day-to-day life. And the best way to counter lies that actually keep us from living a fruitful life is by countering them by truth. So I'm going to name a lie, and then I'm going to think together with you guys what the truth could be that counters that lie. So lie number 1 is this. This is from Sipke. My reward is here on earth. We can get this theology, especially in the West, that God blesses the righteous, which is true. Now, if we then materialize that, or if we then look at it from a standard that is purely worldly, then we can get the impression that if I don't get the girl as a single man, or if I don't have a super fruitful, super happy, super wonderful marriage, everybody else on Instagram has, right? Then God must not love me. And that is a lie. That is a lie. My reward is not here on earth. We are not living for the short amount of time that we have here on earth. We're living for eternity. That is the truth. And yes, we believe, the best is yet to come, and the coming years are better than the formers. We claim that every promise in Jesus is yes and amen. And, but if we make the mistake that we see spiritual blessings and we translate them into earthly possessions, we're not going to be happy. And we're going to look at our season and think like, man, God must just not love me. And that will lead to all sorts of temptations, will lead to all sorts of ungratefulness too, and will raise up fear, right? If God is not giving it to me, how do I get it? So what's the truth again? My reward is in heaven. I'm living for eternity. Okay. Line number 2, my pain or my loneliness keep me from ministering effectively. This is a lie, right? I've met single people who are very lonely. I've met married people who are lonely in their marriage. And that is a topic, that is an issue, and that has to be countered. There has to be ways to become less lonely by making sure that you meet people regularly, or by being in deep, meaningful connections, if by working together towards a marriage where you don't feel lonely. But even then, there's moments where you feel lonely or misunderstood or things like that. And we can get very, like secluded from it and go, I'm patient. If I'm painful, then God can't use me. God cannot use a person that is in pain. Well, God has been using people in pain. Number 1, Jesus was in pain when he was used the most in his life, right? So the truth is, pain is not a blocker for living for Jesus, living effectively. Number 3, here's the last one. My next season is worth more than my current season. And that is a very insidious one, because in Christianity, oftentimes we think once you get married, right, then God really can use you. Or once you get married, then you will be, and all these things. I can tell you that mindset will lead to, once you are married, and once we have kids. And then once you have kids, once those kids have moved out. And once those kids have moved out, then you're like, once I'm retired. And once you're retired, then you're looking back and you're like, oh, when I was young, that's when I could have been used most for God. Let's stop this mindset of that God can use us in the future better than now. Yes, it's true, he's working on us, he's improving us, he's shaping us, he's molding us. But however, the season we're in is the season we're made for. You and I, we're made for the moment. And so I will leave you with those 3 lies. I will give you this task. If you're discussing this in a connect group, then how about discussing what's the countering truth of those 3 lies? God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week.